I live in a quiet neighborhood just outside Portland, Oregon. The kind of place where nothing really happens. Or at least, that's what I used to think. It was a Thursday night. Around 11:30 p.m., I had just left my friend's place after a movie night. I didn't drive that night. Figured the walk home would clear my head. It was only about 15 minutes anyway. The streets were silent. No cars, no people. Just me, the faint hum of distant street lamps, and the occasional rustle of wind brushing through the trees. About 5 minutes into the walk, I got that weird feeling, like someone was watching me. I turned around. No one. Just the empty street behind me. I kept walking. Another few minutes passed, and I heard it. Footsteps. Light. But definitely there. They stopped when I stopped, and started again when I started. At first, I thought maybe someone else was just out for a late walk. But then I realized the footsteps weren't on the sidewalk. They were coming from the road, parallel to me, like someone was keeping pace in the shadows, but intentionally staying just out of sight. I glanced over my shoulder again. Still nothing. So I picked up my pace a bit. Nothing dramatic, just a little faster. But the footsteps matched me, step for step. I was now approaching a street light, just one flickering bulb on a quiet corner. As I passed under it, I heard the sound again. But this time, there was a second noise. A low, almost whispery breathing behind me. I turned around fast, and that's when I saw it. A figure, standing dead still under the last streetlight I passed, just far enough away that I couldn't make out a face. They weren't moving, just standing, facing me. I yelled out something like, "Hey, you good?" No response. I waited. Still nothing. Then, they took a step forward. Not fast, just one slow, deliberate step. That was enough for me. I bolted. I ran the rest of the way home. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see if they were chasing me. When I reached my front door, I fumbled with the keys like I was in a bad horror movie. Finally got in, slammed it shut, locked it, and went straight to the window. Nothing. No one out there. No footsteps. No breathing. Nothing. I stayed up the entire night. The next day, I walked the same route back to my friend's place during daylight, just to prove to myself that it was all in my head. But near the flickering street light, there was something on the ground. A small folded piece of paper. I picked it up and opened it. In messy, shaky handwriting, it read, "You walk fast, but I'll catch you next time." Last summer, I was living in Denver and working an overnight shift at a local radio station. One night, around 2 a.m., I decided to walk home instead of calling a ride. The streets were quiet, and it was a warm, still night. About a block in, I noticed a man across the street walking in the same direction. He wasn't doing anything weird, just stiff, almost like he was marching. His arms didn't swing, and his back didn't bend. Every time I slowed down, he slowed down. If I sped up, he sped up. Even when I crossed the street, he mirrored me. That's when I started to get nervous. I turned down a side street I didn't usually take, hoping he wouldn't follow. But when I looked back, he was gone. I laughed, thinking maybe it was all just nerves. But 2 blocks later, as I passed a dark alley, I heard a whisper. "You're smarter than the others." I froze. He was standing there, his face barely visible in the shadows. I ran the rest of the way to my building, locked the door, and checked the security footage the next morning. I was alone, just like I remembered. But then the camera caught something else. The same man, walking calmly down the sidewalk. When he reached the camera, he paused, looked right at it, with his cold, unblinking eyes locked onto the lens. The police couldn't find him. No face match, no ID. They told me to be careful walking alone at night. I haven't walked since, and sometimes, when I pass that alley in an Uber, I swear I see someone standing in the shadows. It was around 3 a.m. when I stumbled out of the club. The night had been filled with laughter, music, and too many drinks. My head was spinning, but I was determined to make it home. My apartment was only a 20-minute walk, so I figured I'd be fine. The streets were mostly empty, save for a few late-night stragglers heading to their cars or walking their dogs. I was alone, but I didn't mind. The fresh air would help clear my head, I thought. But as I walked, something felt off. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. At first, I couldn't put my finger on it. I thought maybe I was just paranoid, my intoxicated state making me overthink. But then I heard the footsteps. There were 2 men behind me. They weren't walking at a normal pace, slow, deliberately slow, almost like they were trying to stay just far enough behind me to remain unnoticed. I quickened my pace, hoping they'd just pass me by. But they didn't. They matched my steps. That's when I heard one of them speak. "Hey, where you headed?" I froze. My heart began to race. I kept walking, pretending I didn't hear them, but they started getting closer. "Come on, don't be rude," the other man said, his voice a little more demanding. I could feel them closing in. The streetlights were dim, casting long shadows on the sidewalk. I didn't know what to do. My phone was in my bag, but I felt too disoriented to use it. Then one of the men spoke again, this time much closer. "You look lost. Maybe we can help you find your way." I turned a corner onto a quieter street, hoping to lose them, but they followed. They were no longer trying to hide their presence. Their footsteps grew louder, more deliberate, as if they were closing in on me. I looked around desperately, but the streets were empty. The silence felt suffocating. "Hey, stop," one of them shouted. I turned back to see them just a few feet away now, their grins twisted and full of malice. My pulse raced. I had to act fast. In my panic, I didn't even think. Just ran. I sprinted down the street, my legs aching, my body swaying from the alcohol. I could hear them behind me, laughing, calling out, getting closer. Their footsteps echoed in my ears like a heartbeat. But I didn't stop. I turned another corner and sprinted faster, trying to remember the layout of the area. I was getting closer to my building, but they were still there, still following. Then, suddenly, I saw lights. A car approaching, a group of people walking down the street. Without thinking, I ran towards them, my breath coming in short gasps. I heard one of the men shout something, but it didn't matter anymore. I reached the group of strangers, and the men stopped chasing me. I turned around to see them lingering in the distance, then disappearing into the night. I didn't stop running until I was inside my building. I locked the door behind me and leaned against it, my heart pounding in my chest. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that they were still out there, waiting. I don't know what their intentions were, but I'm grateful I didn't have to find out. I haven't walked home alone at night since.